our mission is to help change the world one leader at a time. And we have a pretty awesome guest, a very good friend of mine that's jumping on this morning. So first of all, good morning, Keith. What's up, brother?
Good morning. Good to see you guys. See ya.
Yeah, I appreciate you jumping on this morning. I know. So to take you guys a little bit about Keith's background, we've known each other now, man, almost 15, 18 years? Like how long
Yeah,
have we known each other?
about 18.
So 18 years, we've kind of grown up in business together. We knew each other through some, friends in business and worked together for a period of time in Atlanta. And we played soccer together. We live here in Michigan and in Detroit. So first of all, Keith, do you mind telling, people may have picked up on a bit of an accent there. Do you mind telling everyone that could jump on the channel a little bit about Keith, about life and your journey to America?
All right. All in 2 minutes, right? Well, yeah,
Take your time.
I grew up in South London, and long story short, I was playing soccer. Obviously, it's very popular over there, and I was doing a college degree, and it was a sports degree, and we got offered a chance to do a coaching badge, and then so I did that. I got a coaching license whilst I was doing that. Then they were like, "Well, we can send some of you guys to work summer camps in America," and had never really thought about it. And next thing I knew, I was. I was 18. Yeah, I was turning 18, and I was out in LA coaching kids for the summer. It was pretty cool. And I went back, did my last year of college, came back out, did more of the same, and then somehow managed to stay in the country. And through soccer, and then in my mid-20s, I kind of fell into sales because I love soccer coaching, but realized it wasn't particularly going to pay the bills as a main source of income. But I still wanted to do it. So I realized I needed something else and fell into sales, and obviously worked with Ken a bit back in the day, and then kind of took my own route, as they say in America. And I still am now obviously running a business. Obviously we do a lot of sales, but running a business and being able to coach in the evenings as well. So getting a bit of best of both worlds.
Yeah. So tell me, I mean, you grew up in England, right? So there's so many people that are outside of America that want to come to the U.S. First of all, obviously soccer and teaching kids. You grew up playing and playing over there. What was that like moving to a new country? You're at 18 years old. My mom did something very similar when I was 18 years old. When she was 18 years old. Came to the U.S. from Colombia, right, for the American dream. For you, it sounds like it was more of soccer. And how was it? Moving away from home so far away. What did your parents think? Again, I'm a dad now. Lots of things come to my mind when you did that.
No, my parents were supportive, and not to do one of those back in the day stories of how it was when we grew up, but I was walking to school when I was like 10. I was walking 2 miles to school, crossing major roads when I was 10, and so it's like, as a parent as well, I wouldn't let my kid do that now, but times were different. I always kind of grew up somewhat independent. I went to a sixth form college, we call it in England, because you finish high school at 16 and you choose 3 subjects to do for 2 years, and then it's at 18 then that you go to college, so university. So yeah, I'd always been pretty independent. I moved traveled a fairly away for like sixth form college. Then my university was a fair distance away. And it just wasn't that big. I hadn't overly thought about going to America. Just that opportunity came to go do 10 weeks. And it was great. And I had 1 year of college left. So I went back and did that. So when I then was ready to come back out again for the next summer, that was kind of all I was thinking. There was no full-time thing. Obviously, I knew there may be possibilities to stay on and fall into things, but it was just, okay, I've now finished university. I can go out and do another summer. And then just things kind of, opportunities came, things snowballed. So there was no big leaving ceremony when I left, because my parents thought I was coming back, but it never really happened.
Yeah, that's funny.
But
yeah,
being independent and figuring things out, I just kind of something, I did. Wasn't that big a deal, really.
That's awesome. So obviously we worked together in our 20s, right? How old was I when we met? Do you remember?
I don't know. Well, you 45 now?
42.
Ah,
So come on, man. You give me too
youngster,
many years.
youngster. Um, you just play like a 45-year-old. Um,
Oh, okay. All right. All right. All right.
no, I guess, well, 18, it was 18 years ago because the age of my daughter and stuff. So take it back 18 years. You must have been, what, 20, 24, 25.
So I was 24, 25, and that was right when I moved to Atlanta, and I was working with Bell South, and it was outside sales. And so you get into sales, right? So I mean, obviously, there's a lot of people that jump on this channel that are just young in their careers and sales and leadership and learning about life. How was it for you in sales when you were young in your career?
Um, yeah, it was good. I mean, I never overly thought about sales as a word or like I want to do sales, or it was just you talk and you're social and you fall into things. When I first with the soccer coaching, I became a regional manager for Major League Soccer camps, and I ended up selling a whole bunch for my region. I crushed the numbers and beat them by like 4 times for selling goals and uniforms to clubs in my area. But all I really was doing was selling soccer coaching services, and I had built relationships, and they're just like, "We like you, and our club needs goals, and our club needs this," and um, so it was never. It's not that I didn't know I was doing sales. Obviously, I knew I was doing sales. It was just never a big ambition. It just kind of happened. And I realized I was quite good at speaking to people and doing it. And then when I realized kind of that's something I was quite good at, then I put time into it, reading books and doing other things and education like that and figuring out how I can do it more effectively. But yeah, I mean, if you like speaking to people and like getting mutually beneficial outcomes, that's really all it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so interesting, right? So, and obviously, we'll talk a little bit about what you do now and the business. You've built a massive business, and and it's interesting because in any type of sales or any type of business, the first thing most people ask themselves is, do I like you? Do I like interacting with you? Do I want? And then the next thing is, okay, what service do you have, and what can it be mutually beneficial, et cetera. So very cool. So you're getting to your young in your career. You're moving around. So where have you lived in the U.S.? So you start off in California. Where are the different places you've moved around, and
Yeah,
where have
so
you
my
lived?
first, I mean, there's places I've been and stayed, and there's places I've had an apartment. I mean, I was in Southern California for a few months. Then when I came out the next summer, I kind of got lucky. I was assigned to Hawaii, so that wasn't a bad gig when I was 20, 21. And
I didn't know that.
oh, I got stories about Hawaii. No, that was a great time, great time. And then from Hawaii, I was in San Francisco for a fair bit, and then moved round to Nashville. I lived in Nashville for 6 months. Then my first actual apartment in America, I lived in Memphis for 2 years. And from there, I was in Birmingham, Alabama for 6 months. And an opportunity came.
Uh, You went. Are you back? There you are.
Yeah, I
I can
am.
hear you now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not
Sorry, you
sure.
probably
But
got
I
a
was in
phone call or
Memphis
something.
for 2 years. Memphis was my first official apartment. And then I was in Birmingham, Alabama, then back to San Francisco. Then I lived in Oregon for 2 years. And then from Oregon, I got the opportunity to move out to Detroit. But so I was here for about a year, and then I was able to move. Had to go to Philadelphia, Jacksonville, and Atlanta, and then back to Detroit, and that's where I've been the last 15 years, 16 years.
Nice. And along the way, you've gotten married. You have a beautiful family, right? And your oldest is she's what, 18 now?
Not quite. She's about to turn 16. About to turn
16,
16.
16.
About to
You
turn
said
16.
you said 18 a minute ago. I was like, wait, thought I was wrong. Okay, so 16. She's gone to some of the best schools here in Detroit. She's been at Cranbrook, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Doing her studies
Yeah.
and a killer soccer player.
She has a moment. Yeah.
So tell me about tell me about, so how old were you when you started your company, the company you run now? And I know you've owned multiple companies. How old were you?
Um. Well, when I went, this one was 14. Yeah, I guess 14 years ago. Yeah, 2009.
Okay.
Because I got
And
into
do you
the
mind
industry.
explaining? Yeah,
Yeah.
explain what do you do and what type of business you run now, and
Well, I'm in the payments industry. So if you when you go to a store and you present them your credit debit card and they run it through that machine, that's what I do. I am kind of the machine, but more I'm the service. Just like your phone service, there's the cell phone involved, but it's the cell phone service. So yeah, I do the machines, and if they're using my service, they'll have my machine most of the time. But we can integrate with other machines. But really, I'm providing them better rates for them to accept credit cards, but also much better service and other benefits, as well as helping them to set it all up in the most efficient way possible. Um,
nice.
so yeah, I mean, I got into the industry first of all. I was a regional manager for a company, and I did very well. And they kind of I don't mind being managed, but they left me alone, which was kind of good, because I ran my region. We became number one region after 3 months, and it went really well. But after about a year and a half, a new person came in Florida who was the head guy, and he just started micromanaging, and it was just a headache. And I felt after 2 years, I knew the business enough to kind of set it up on my own. So I left that company and set up Regal Payments, and that's been it ever since.
Nice. And so you start off, you start Regal Payments here in Detroit. You have no clients, right? Because you're starting a brand new business. How did you go out and get your clients, right? So obviously in the industry that I'm in, and you know my business very well, right? So we have clients, we have all those things set up. But when you start a business on your own, like you have no clients, right? You gotta get it off the ground. You gotta get it started. So what was that? Tell me about the early days of that.
Yeah, it was definitely kind of a leap of faith, a jump. I mean, I was able to, get around a couple of non-compete things and bring some customers over, but I still had to go out and see those customers and explain. It wasn't just like I clicked a button and moved them over. I had to explain why they had to come over and be with my new business. So I had that, but that certainly wasn't enough to sustain me. I hustled. I mean, as you know, I've done cold calling, business to business, face to face. So it was just a lot of that. Building and then from those businesses, they would then give me referrals to others. I spent a ton of time doing networking, went to endless chamber meetings, networking meetings, anything I saw, whatever name it had of a meeting that evening where there might be a group of different people, just to get my face and name out there and to make contacts. And it's always, I remember, as you would know, it's that one door you don't go in is a sale. It's the same thing for networking meetings. I remember one networking meeting where I was really tired. I didn't want to go that evening. It was like a 7 to 9 thing. It wasn't that close. I ended up going, and I met a person who referred me to someone that was a large customer for 7, 8 years. And if I hadn't actually gone, I wouldn't have got that. So it's just putting yourself in the positions to receive opportunities.
Yeah, yeah, no, and listen, as you know, what I've explained, the retail side of the business that I'm in now and what we built, it's like that customer you don't pitch, right? It's that customer you don't say hello to is the one that's maybe the easiest, or the big account you sign up for the day, or the referral, to your point, that gets you another one. And it's the old saying that the things you do when nobody's watching, the things you do that in your gut you should. Sometimes people don't, and if you just put yourself out there and you take that next shot, it's funny how the ball kind of bounces your way. So
Yeah.
speed it up now. How many clients, how many customers, how many companies do you manage now for their merchant processing?
Oh, we got
Companies and people, yeah.
quite a few hundred. Yeah, I mean over 1,000, but it's always changing, and then yeah, I mean that's many different industries. Then it's not just local. We can do this all over the country, so different states, different industries. Um,
It's awesome.
yeah.
It's awesome. And it's and to your point, so your business is you acquire the client, you maintain the client, you got to continue to visit the client and follow up with them, because to your point, I'm sure rates change, processors change, things, the credit card companies make moves, right? So you got to be on top of all the details. And you ever have any, along the way in entrepreneurship, there's always moments where you get your ass kicked. There's always things that don't go your way. Do you have something that happened, a challenge that you had to lean into that really served you later on as you look back on it?
Um, yeah, I mean, there's been a few. There's always many challenges. I mean, even like, one nice thing about my industry, you were saying I have to follow up a lot, is actually I don't have to follow up a lot. I mean, yeah, I have systems in place and people in place where it kind of takes care of itself. But then there are times when, you know, um, stuff hits the
A
fan,
machine
and
goes
then
down.
yeah,
Yeah.
and people need you, and then you're there, and that can take up time. But that's the service we provide. It's like you don't need to have an ongoing relationship with your credit card processor. You just need to know that when your machine fails and you've had a power outage, or this happens, or someone's come in and committed fraud in your store, that you're not going to be sitting on hold, and you can get hold of me directly. Um, but in terms of sales and things that have kind of got in your head, I mean, I think, yeah, just to your point of pitching people, I think we all get in our head at times of like, oh, maybe that person, or prejudging, or just it doesn't matter. But when I've always felt like, what's the worst that can happen if you speak to someone? Sure, they might not need my services, but it's my job to efficiently figure out if we're a good fit or not. So I can typically do that in 30 seconds to a minute. So if we're not a good fit together, I've taken up a minute of your day, and has that been that awful an interaction? And hopefully not. So the worst case scenario is I've had a 1 minute conversation with someone and we've both moved on our separate ways. So there's not really anything to stop me having that conversation with someone. And obviously, the best case scenario is all the other things that could go right.
Right.
I always remember there was a time when I was, doing business to business sales, and I had just not done well for a few weeks, and I was broke, and it was just not going well. And I decided I was going to do something else. I was going to quit, but I was out in San Francisco at the time and didn't really have a home base. So I'm like, well, I've got to stay here next week anyway. So I'm still going to just keep plugging on with this, but I don't really care. I'm in San Francisco. I'm just going to wander around the city and just enjoy the city, and just like yeah, but I'll still go in a few businesses. I mean, if I can make a bit of money, great. So I really had a nonchalant attitude of like, hey, life is great. I'm in my 20s. I'm in San Francisco doing whatever. Hey, how are you doing today? Oh, yeah, I do this phone line or whatever I was doing, blah, blah. And, I crushed it that week. I made like $2,000. Everyone was signing up with me. And I was, maybe I'll stick with this a little bit longer. But I think that just kind of taught me just to stop being so stressy, stop being focused on everything else, and just relax and speak to people. And it just doesn't, everything else doesn't overly matter. Just, enjoy your time with people, enjoy what you're doing, be more relaxed. And no one wants to talk to a stressy individual that's just over hustling and is just waiting to get to the next door. Just be there, be present with the person you're speaking to, and yeah, I mean, I always remember that week.
That's funny, right? It's like when you get to the point where you I wouldn't say you don't care, right? Because you care, right? You care if
Right.
you sign up, you care the business you're building, but you get to a point where you have enough confidence and just enough positive attitude and all the basics, right? Where it's like, hey, listen, I'm gonna help this customer out. I'm gonna do my best. To your point, pitch everyone, and if it doesn't work out, no big deal. There's other fish in the sea, right? And but I love that. I think we all have those stories, right? We all have the story of, hey, when you're overly focused or you're overly crazy about your numbers, you're overly crazy about hitting a goal or accomplishing something, as opposed to just, hey, focus on having a good pitch, focus on interacting, focus on helping people. And when you do the basics of that, then it's interesting how the world kind of aligns, right? It's like what energy you put out there, you kind of get it back. And I know you and I just have so many laughs about things, but like you can put positive energy out, you put good vibes out, and then it obviously comes back to you. So I love that. So tell me about what are you doing nowadays? You want to share it to anyone that watch your channel, like what you've been pitching me on lately?
Oh well, that's just a new idea, Ken. My wife always says that I'm ADHD because I got like 1,000 things kind of going on. Um, so no, I mean, I don't think I am the type of person that could do just one thing. I do kind of like jumping around. It's gonna make me sound old now, this reference, but if anyone's ever read the book or heard of Wind in the Willows, it's an old story.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Come on, Ken. It's Disney. Disney did it, Ken. It's not that old. But anyway, there was a guy called Mr. Toad, and he jumped at every new thing. Like he loved the car or plane and that. So I like all different projects. is basically that story. But yeah, so the soccer coaching is like a full-time job. I get paid for it. I'm working with high-level kids and doing like 3 to 4 teams there every year. And then obviously my business. And then I spoke to Ken about some different podcast ideas we had that may be a good synergy, because I'm quite connected to the Detroit business community and a number of different people. So yeah, and then just in terms of the business, trying to capitalize on new trends. I don't know if when you or the people out there go and spend your money, you'll see signs up in businesses saying, if you're going to use your credit card, we're going to add 3 to 4% on here. That's a big thing in our industry now, and we're helping a lot of merchants capitalize on that and do that to people. And that's been a big mind shift for them, and it's been quite interesting how that's evolved these past couple of years.
So the trend is businesses now are doing that, or they're not doing that? They are doing it.
No, it's rapidly moving towards it, and in some areas of the country, I was actually in Charleston a couple of years ago visiting. Everywhere does it, nearly everywhere. The high-end restaurants, the t-shirt shops on the beach, and now here in Metro Detroit, it's really catching on. A lot of people are doing it, and COVID sped that up, because business owners obviously took a big hit during COVID in a number of ways. So any way to eliminate an expense, they're doing that.
And so essentially, so I understand it. So, and I think we've talked about this. So the credit card companies are now charging fees for minimums, and the business owner is now taking that and passing that on to the customer to offset the costs, or there's certain fees they're trying to cover by doing that?
They're trying to cover. I mean, credit card, it's Visa, MasterCard has always charged businesses fees to take cards. And that's something when I got into the industry, I had no idea that happened. I was like, oh, so this is something that happens. It's not free as a business owner to take payments from your customer. And if you think it can be averaging around, let's just say 3%, you're doing $100,000 a month in sales. That's $3,000 a month you're paying just to accept payment from your customer. So nowadays it's allowed that you can pass that on to your customers, and a lot of businesses were worried that would make their customers unhappy. But I'm like, well, let's say you do spend $30,000 a year in this expense. How many customers are you going to truly make unhappy? And is it going to be more than saving $30,000? And what we've actually found is that really customers don't change their habits. They still go. I say this to merchants who are have a little bit of trepidation about doing it. If your product's good enough and if your service is good enough, nothing will change. People aren't going to go the other side of town or even go 1 minute away for the sake of 3% extra if they like what you're selling or what you're doing or how you make your customers feel. So yeah, it's been doing good.
So true. And it's interesting, right? Because obviously, as you know, we're in the retail space, and obviously our side of things is a little bit different when it comes to payments, and customers have to pay taxes on certain cell phones and whatever. But to your point, that relationship, and as long as people understand, what it is, right? So there's something we do is when a customer has a different provider, sometimes they got to pay off their phones before they come over to AT&T, the client we represent. And so as long as the customer kind of knows what does the big picture look like? What is it you said something about 30,000, right? If somebody's doing, my guess is $1 million a month, it's about 30,000 they spend just to accept payments, right? So, so it's all of that stuff is interesting. So, well, listen, Keith, I really appreciate you jumping on today. I know it took a minute to kind of get going today, but yeah. Any final words, any thoughts about, for anyone that's watching the channel, do you want to, kind of let people know if they have a family or if somebody watches the channel and they want to have, someone take care of them for their merchant processing, how they can find you?
Yeah, regalpayments.com. That's my website, so you can easily find me there, and you can always contact Ken. He can pass it on as well. But yeah, it's helping people accept payments in the most efficient and cost-effective ways possible is what we say to people. But I appreciate the time. It's been great knowing you.
Do you want to tell people about our soccer real quick? 30 seconds about our world-class soccer team we play on together, our over 30 and over 40
I was going to say it's been great, seeing you grow and develop over these 18 years. But that's on the business side. I haven't seen you grow and develop as a soccer player. unfortunately. That's kind of
Okay.
stagnated, maybe gone a bit backwards, who knows. But if you want to come out to some high quality over 40s and over 30s soccer, Ken can provide you that information this year.
Well, thank you for that. There's nothing like honesty, and it's all out of love because without me, we wouldn't win the games. All right,
All
moving
right.
on. But hey, Keith, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you jumping on today. Yep, and we'll talk soon, my friend.
All right. See you. Bye.
Thanks for jumping on. See you, brother.